Hey, there we are. Hey.
Hey.
We're late. We're late. 1 minute. I was talking about shit demons. Blame me. It's all my fault. I'm the only one with the power to move us over. Marsupial has none
Welcome
of that.
Welcome to the Rated R show.
Yes, Super Serial Showtime should definitely be rated R. I don't know if I still have it set to this. At one point in time, I did have all the streams set to 18 plus, but I think I said, fuck it. Not for kids is a good enough standard for me. I'll only change it if somebody at YouTube actually bothers to watch the show and yell at us.
Yeah. I mean, all we have is occasional swearing and some, I don't know, occasional heavy topics, but
Yeah, I mean, I know some pretty whack shit comes out of my mouth, I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah, I guess so.
I think we're fine.
Yeah.
We're fine until someone says otherwise. That's my motto.
Right.
But
we'd have to have a lot more people watching, I think, for people to
exactly. That's the thing, right? Like when you're invisible, it doesn't matter, right? We're the invisible man running around flipping up girls' skirts.
Okay. Exactly.
But welcome to Super Serial Showtime, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. If you like the show at any point in time, please. Actually, even if you don't like it, go share it out with somebody. Get more people in here. Maybe somebody will start complaining about our shenanigans if we get enough people in here. And if you really want to go one step and beyond, you can donate to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. I'll read it out. Adds to the pizza fund. In the meantime, how you doing today?
I'm just fine. I was actually funny related to the whole being invisible. I was watching. Sorry, let me start over. I got a notification. What's that?
GMT remembers to wear panties. Yeah, probably you should.
You don't have to do that. I had gotten a notification that I got like a copyright, not strike, but whatever it is, the content ID thing. On a very old live stream on my channel. And what I found out was it was, I guess I had music just playing in the background very softly while I was playing a game that didn't have any music. Yeah, and I was like, so when I first played it back, I was like, there's no music playing. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then I turned it way, way up, and I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of barely hear it. It was really low. And I didn't even recognize what it was, but I guess it was some obscure song from Wind Waker, I guess. And so I was like, well, do I dispute this? And then I looked at it on the the YouTube dashboard thing, and it said, this has no effect on anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course not. I'm
Shit.
not monetized anyway. Well, I'm not monetized, so it doesn't matter at all.
Speaking of, I should actually probably go through the playlist and make sure this one's not in there. There's only ever been one song that plays in the background. And honestly, even when it plays while we're talking, I've never been hit by it. So if I were to clip the beginning and end, it's not an issue. But if it plays in the beginning again, where the music is louder, there's a song called 8-Bit 80s, which is a remix of the old Mario themes. But it's got like the remix has the drum pattern opening for a Flock of Seagulls song, and every single time it plays, it gets hit with that Flock of Seagulls song, and I just don't like dealing with it, even though I could probably just ignore it. So I removed it from the playlist, but that was before we left, and before I shifted everything over to my hard drive, so I had to re-import all of my music to my media player, and I may have accidentally added it to the playlist again. I don't know. It's hard to tell right now. I'll have to dig through it later. But it's so stupid. It's a remix. It's fair use, but that's just how these stupid bots are.
Yeah, I guess. Well, and I guess I had disputed it at some point, but I got like a notification that the copyright holder disputed the dispute or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? For this? You can't even hear it. But on the other hand, it has no effect on me whatsoever, so I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's like, so there's really no point in ever disputing anything on this channel unless for some reason it gives an actual strike, which hurts the channel. I mean, it would stop us from being able to stream, and then all of you would have to go over to like Twitch or somebody else until that, what's it, like a week or 2 week grievance period after your first strike before you can stream again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be the only thing I have to dispute. Otherwise, like, this channel, I mean, we could get a bajillion followers, and I doubt this channel's ever going to be monetized, so.
Mm-hmm.
But we have topics. We have topics to talk about.
Yeah.
Where do you want to begin?
GMT.
You want to... Oh.
Well, GMT brought up one of our topics.
Yeah, I guess we could start there, and then we could get to your homework later.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Yeah, I didn't have time to watch Sandland.
Sandland? No. That's fine.
Next time.
That's fine. I'm caught
That'll
up
be
on
for
it,
next.
but we
All right.
we'll talk about Spaceman later, but in the meantime, we have Deadpool and Wolverine trailer just ended up dropping.
I'm gonna share.
I think this might
real
be...
quick.
Yeah, you can if you want. Let me get the thing ready to switch over. Where is it? Full screen. Let me actually click on this because I made it. It's supposed to do it automatically, but I think I accidentally made it small last time when trying to exit the screen. There we go. Should be fine now. Everybody can see it.
Well,
So-
yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
wanna
will
just
preface
play
before
it?
we start this. Before we start this, I thought I was going to have mixed feelings on this, because usually I do.
I didn't.
Yeah, I know you didn't. I
was
had
very
some
positive about
reservations, right? My two reservations going into this was A, it's not under the old Fox anymore because it's owned by Disney now, right? And B, in the entire history of the X-Men movies, at no point did Hugh Jackman's Wolverine ever act like Logan. He was kind of like Logan Light, right? Like, I don't want to drink Bud. I'll drink Bud Light, right? These reservations by this trailer just dismisses them altogether. So I'm actually excited for this movie. We can watch this.
All right. Yeah, I've not. I only watched like the first like 30 seconds. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Is that loud enough?
I talk about copyrights and stuff. I think this is like the one thing where I really don't care if people can hear it. They can watch it on their own time. If it's just for us. Yeah. As long as
I
it's
think
loud
this
enough
is
for
rated
you to
R
hear.
because there's swearing.
Oh yeah. That was the biggest thing, was I was going to be worried whether it was going to be rated R or not. And this very clearly seems to be rated R. I think you looked it up and it was R.
Yeah, so the movie is definitely rated R.
Yeah.
And I guess the trailer seems to be, but you know, whatever.
You don't want this. Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you
Wait. I want to see that. What did it say?
Smile.
Smile, wait for the flash. Oh, that's what it is.
It's like a camera.
I suggest you reconsider.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I just didn't see what it said.
And
It's got the yellow.
yeah.
I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about.
And that wait, could you go back to the actual opening shot on this? Like when they first walk in.
This part.
Yeah. Okay, I thought so. Is that the 20th Century Fox logo?
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't catch that
Very
the first
meta.
time I watched the trailer, but watching it again, I saw it.
Yeah, because it says Marvel Studios. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
I like that they're still going to be taking the piss out of things.
Yeah.
Is that what you said when your world went to shit?
Oh, is this like a multiverse thing?
Yeah. So apparently, this Wolverine is from a different world, which makes sense because, as far as we know, Deadpool does not take place in the major MCU world, and I don't know if they implied it ever took place in the original X-Men, despite being a Fox thing. They used
Yeah, are
the
the
front
X-Men
shot
in the
of the
MCU?
manor, but like nothing else in it matched up, right? Like their Juggernaut was a different Juggernaut, their Colossus was different. So I think Deadpool was always kind of assumed to just be in his own little standalone world that was far more like the comics, aside from Domino. It was still my major complaint about number 2. But still far more like the comics than the Fox films ever were. So I'm assuming this is just a different Wolverine.
Okay, or the Wolverine we know, but he's going to a different universe.
Yeah, it could be the actual Wolverine from like Logan and like the whole series coming over here, but it's not the one who is from Deadpool's movie.
All right.
Yeah, that was the shot I was talking about where, like, it's clearly, it has to be R. They wouldn't do a Wolverine's claws into Wade's nuts in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah. Split second.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right in his taint.
Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback? Go fuck yourself.
Oh yeah, GMT even brings up one of the quotes from the original movie that actually, it's funny, but it pisses me off every time I see it. The whole like, what, were you expecting yellow spandex? And she's like, yes, everyone was expecting yellow spandex.
Yeah. It was like, yes, unironically, yes, it's completely deadpan.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about saving worlds, but you do.
Wait, who was that? Who was it?
Trust me, kid. I'm a hero.
We'll go back later.
Yeah.
You were an X-Man.
And Fizchos is bringing up something that I will explain after we're done watching the trailer that he's talking about in chat. But
Soaking wet right now.
Boys are so silly.
This is what I'm talking about.
Is that Ant-Man?
I
Or just
think
his
so.
head?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a skull inside of it. Yeah, I think so. I guess he died in the whole like giant man form, and just never went back.
Oh, I forgot. Huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
wow.
can use comma and period to frame by frame.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
For those of you in the audience who didn't know, you could do that in YouTube.
Big slow
Yeah.
motion action sequence. Who knows if you live or die? Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
They're jumping out of the skull.
Yeah. Through like a Doctor Strange portal. So, being very meta, they're going to obviously, now that they're in Marvel Studios, the same thing that they did back in Fox, they're going to start making jokes from all the properties that they have access to now. It's like, well, we're in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Let's make fun of everything.
Exactly, yeah.
It's the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching?
Well, we know all the slang terms they have.
Huh.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interruption?
Even force bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes. But I can't.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I'm excited. I think that trailer. Yeah, no, get Jeremy off my screen, okay?
Yeah, sorry about that. Where was
Oh wait. Oh, there was something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
The photo.
Yeah, who's in that photo?
I don't know. You have to tab backwards, I think.
Hold on.
I think it was when they were in the car.
No, yeah, it's right here.
Okay, yeah, it was right before that. Let's see.
Oh. Well, shoot, I don't know. Anyway, you can keep talking.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Kind of lost my train of thought. This. No, this is just a group photo of his family, like all the people that we saw before.
Of Deadpool? Oh.
Yeah. Deadpool's like
Yeah,
the
'cause-
group of people he considers his family, right? So like, Vanessa.
That looks
and
like,
all the other mutants and stuff. That he picked up.
the people from that party
yeah.
at the beginning.
Everyone that we've met that survived the last 2 movies, which even with the time travel thing, remember at the end he went back and he what was his name? Was it Peter or he had the normal guy who just like showed up to the Craigslist ad. I can't remember his name,
I don't.
but he was in the party.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that in so long. I can't remember. Yeah.
Because he
What about
at the very end he was like, "No, walk away, leave it." Is that okay?
What was the name of that cab driver? It's like
I'm trying to remember.
Mopinder. Is it Mopinder?
Was it?
I think so.
I haven't watched either of these movies in. God, they're not that old, but it's years at this point.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a question. So who's this? Who's this
I
person?
went to the villain. So the thing that I was actually going to explain now that it's over. So the villain of this movie is Cassandra Nova, who is actually like one of the biggest major X-Men villains. But if you're not like a comic reader, you'd probably never have any clue who she is. And even if you are, you'd have to make some guesses because she's wearing the outfit. But this actress is way too pretty and young to be Cassandra Nova. Because she's supposed to be like Professor Xavier's
Well,
age.
it did make her bald, I guess.
Yeah, you could be pretty and bald, right?
Yeah, she's pretty.
No, but she's supposed to be old like Professor Xavier. And the reason for that is because Cassandra Nova is Xavier's sister. Kind of, sort of. It's weird if you actually go into like her backstory. It's kind of like a phantom twin syndrome, but her origin actually comes from an emotional parasite. Oh god, I'm trying to remember what they're called. It starts with an M. Shoot. But there's like this emotional parasite thing. And that's how Cassandra Nova came into being. So she's got like a lot of the same powers as Xavier, except they're on crack. So instead of just being like a telepath, she's also got like telekinetic abilities. Nova's always been weird, just as a character. And she's always been kind of a bitch.
Well, I mean, if there's anything some of these modern writers know how to do, it's to write a bitch of a female character.
let me look up Cassandra Nova and find what the name of the thing, her origin came from. Because even these
looks like
emotional parasites were a pretty big deal for a while too.
Looks like they're going into a portal. Yeah, oh, that's where you said it looked like a Doctor Strange kind of portal thing.
Yeah, they were called
And there's some sort of-
Mumadrai were their names.
Okay.
It was bothering me that I could not think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah. Looks like there's some sort of storm, like this world is being engulfed. Oh, I wonder if they're did you ever watch Loki on Disney Plus?
At most I saw clips because everything I saw from it made me not want to watch it.
Yeah. There's this world that that basically when you get pruned by the what is it called? The TVA? Whatever.
Yeah.
Temporal something variance authority. You get sent to this world.
Well, even
where
Fish
this
Joseph brought that up
giant-
too, that the TVA is a major aspect of this film.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched any of the Disney Plus shows, you're going to be totally lost. I wonder if that's
Well,
where they are at this point.
I'm sure.
'cause-
At the same time, Ryan Reynolds realizes that there's way too much Marvel stuff for any individual person to get, right? And even though like he just centered the jokes around the fans, there's a lot of comic-only jokes in the 2 Deadpool movies. Hell, if you don't read the comics, like I said, you're not even going to know who Cassandra Nova is. He's probably going to do it in a way
That's
that
what
even
it
if you don't know what's going on, you can still enjoy it.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll explain things. I think that's it. Where do you go when TVA prunes you?
Fischosa says, I never understood why Charles Xavier has so many evil relatives. I understand Legion, but Cassandra's a step too far. The whole reason is because
Juggernaut isn't Juggernaut related?
yeah, well, he's like a step sibling or whatever. I
Yeah.
think, or half sibling. I think it was his stepfather's son, so I think it's a step sibling. I don't remember exactly, but they're not like fully related.
Mm-hmm.
What's he getting at? Oh, the whole thing about Xavier is that he was always kind of painted as the man with a past that you don't know, right? So it just kept coming on because he was like the whole grandfather figure, the patriarch, the guy who's teaching all these people, and he seems to be this like, yeah, okay, I thought it was stepbrother.
Not
Thank you for
related by blood.
clarifying. Yeah. Well, even then, he's not technically a mutant. You find out later that he has been experimented with, so there is a mutation in that case, but there's a shard of Sidorak or whatever in him that gives him his powers.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to be like this upstanding father figure, but there was always something shifty about him. Like he would always keep things from people. He wouldn't let out like his full intentions or plans. And the more and more you spend time with this family that is the X-Men, the more you realize is because, yeah, he's got a past. He's got a lot of people who's related. The first one that came out was obviously, as you find out, his past with Magneto that he was kind of not straightforward with, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I know this guy. We had a history together. And then you find out that like, oh, well, the whole school was founded with Magneto and a whole bunch of different things. And you can't stop there. Once you start this, and this character has this, I don't even want to say sketchy, but this deep past, you have to start pulling out more and more people from it over time. And that's just who the character Xavier is.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so I paused it here as I didn't even notice this the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So see that face there at the end of the cloud? So yeah, I think this part is taking place in the void at the end of time, which is where the TVA sends you if they determine you're a variant that needs to be ended. So they send you to the void at the end of time.
Leaves from the world tree that need to be pruned.
Yeah, and this thing is called Alioth. I think it's a character that was created for Loki. I don't think it was in the comics.
Maybe, but that name sounds familiar. I wonder if there's mythological roots to them choosing that name.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, it basically once you get pruned, you get sent here, and then eventually this creature finds you and consumes you, whatever, destroys you. So it looks like that's what. So there, a bunch of people. So yeah, and I think I remember in Loki. Why does it keep? Stupid thing. There may have been this car. I don't remember, but yeah, there are still people there that have avoided Alioth somehow.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's catching up with them, and so they have to take this portal to another universe.
Ah, okay. I thought that sounded familiar. Alioth is
kind of a Mad
old
Max
name for Epsilon Ursa Major. It's the star in the Big Dipper.
Oh, got it. Okay. So yeah, I think that they're stuck in this void, and I don't know. Eventually, somebody sends them a portal or something. God, sorry.
I noticed that the effect for that, not having seen Loki, but the effect for that kind of storm cloud, the Alioth that's like eating the pruning world, is pretty much the exact same effect that was used in Guardians of the Galaxy with the Power Stone.
Oh yeah, because purple.
Yeah.
Kind of cloudy. Yeah, could be.
They could.
It's kind of neat.
GMT.
There's like a.
She says they could go to the restaurant at the end of the universe for lunch. The restaurant at the end of the universe is at the end of time.
Mm-hmm. Probably isn't it in space though? It's probably orbiting this planet.
I guess there's no reference for space at the restaurant in the end of the universe.
Yeah.
Like the restaurant is the only reference point you have for space. It is what is.
There's nothing else. Well, yeah. All right. Well, you want to? I can stop
Yeah,
sharing.
you can stop it. I think we've seen enough of that. I'm sure if anybody actually watched us, some studio would be upset with how much we've shown by now. So screw them.
Well, I mean, it's just a trailer.
It is. It is. But you know how these people are. They get upset over the dumbest things.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ryan himself
But
would be
anyway.
happy. I'm especially being on his own channel. He would love people to react to that because that would just make more people want to see the movie. People who are internet savvy, which I don't know why marketing teams are not internet savvy. It seems like the dumbest decision ever to not hire netizens for your marketing team. But people who actually are internet savvy, like Reynolds, knows the value that React content has for getting your thing out there, especially if it's like a motion picture and you don't give a shit about the ad revenue on YouTube.
Yeah.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Sorry,
I feel like
something's
that's kind of a callback, right? I mean, obviously cocaine is snow, right? That's like another name for it.
Yeah.
But the whole
Well,
like
it's a-
joke from the previous one where he's like, you ever notice that Do You Want to Build a Snowman and Father Can You Hear Me are the same song?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the same tune.
yeah.
It's interesting. So what was the? Was that the question that you answered? Who the antagonist is?
Yes. That was Fischoso
so-
was talking about Cassandra Nova before we got. I wanted to watch the whole
Yeah.
trailer before I explained who the antagonist was.
Yeah. So does she have? Is she just? Does she just have psychic powers, or does she also have psychokinetic ability? 'Cause-
She has the full range of like psychic powers, kind of like. It's not just
she was, like,
telepathic.
moving-
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was moving Wolverine around, but it could have been just telepathic, or it could have been also telekinetic.
She's crazy. I think it also varies. She's a very inconsistent character. I said she's fueled by kind of her hatred for Xavier.
Yeah.
He said because there's like a phantom twin syndrome situation or going on there.
Yeah. All right. Well, yes. Apparently, she has all the powers. Dry. Huh. Yeah. In the comics, she's a lot older.
Yeah, because she's supposed to be Xavier's age. They were supposed to be born at the same time.
Right. So apparently she can also mimic DNA, so she can basically copy other people's powers.
That's why I said she's a very
including,
inconsistent
like-
character, aside from like the reason why she's inconsistent.
Yeah.
Because at first it's supposed to just be mutant powers, right? Because she's copying DNA. But then
Yeah.
they kind of let her go off the handle as the X-Men start interacting with other people. You're like, okay, as long as your power is linked to your DNA at all, it's not just the X gene, you're able to do it.
Yeah, I guess she can't necessarily copy magic.
Yeah,
or
or
whatever.
like,
but
even though
essentially,
it is Jean's DNA that's the reason why she's the host for the Phoenix Force, because the Phoenix Force is a completely different thing. She can't copy any of that stuff.
yeah. But it's like, okay, so if you give a character just like unlimited omnipotency, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of gets boring because it's like, how can you possibly? And you have to come up with some contrivance as to how you defeat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah. So yeah, she has telekinesis, telepathy, astral projection, DNA duplication.
Oh, actually, let me find this. It's in one of my recent messages. Buck had an opinion because it has to do with the topic. For you specifically, I just have to go back and find in our conversation. Yes, this is leaking DMs, but I don't give a shit. It's Buck, and it's nothing personal. Where was it? It was right after last show.
What were we talking about last time?
Or was it last show, or maybe the show before? It was when we were talking about heroes. I don't remember if that was last show or the show before that. Yes, here we go. He said on the 15th. So I don't think 15th was probably actually last show.
That was a month ago or a week ago. It was a week.
Yeah. So that was last show. He says, "Is it wrong for me to feel like facepalming hearing Mars say the powers in Heroes is weirder than in X-Men when like all the powers in that show were based on actual X-Men or X-Men adjacent characters? Like none of the powers were original to that show. They all you could have found them in the X-Men comics."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just felt like sharing that.
I'm not that. I'm not that familiar. I never actually read X-Men comics regularly.
Yeah.
I was mostly in Spider-Man. But was there a character that had a split personality that had different actual physical abilities
Yes. Listen,
in themselves? Okay.
if there's a power, even if it's like a goofy one, you can name that power. There's been a character in the X-Men comics that have had it.
Right, because that's the whole point of X-Men is just for them to be lazy and just say, they're just born with it, but they could just do whatever they want.
Yeah, but also like the cool thing about X-Men is there's a lot of people with just like useless mutations, sort of, but like they were still mutants, so they weren't accepted by society, and they had to go to the school anyway. So there's always a bunch of people running around in the school that had like weird powers, but also they would end up fighting villains that had weird powers too, like because of this weird thing where it doesn't do much for me, but I've got these fish fins just on the side of my arm that I've learned I can cut through certain material with. I'm not accepted by society. It's like, well, you could come hang out at our school. It's like, no, I have to rob banks instead. X-Men is the most melodramatic comic you will ever read. Right? Claremont had made it more fun, but in general, it is the most melodramatic comic you will ever read.
Yeah, maybe that's why crazy people online seem to, want to commandeer it for themselves because they want some sort of excuse to be crazy and antisocial or violent.
This isn't a complaint about the comic. Melodrama is fun, right? Like as long as there's enough action in between and the characters actually have some development, and by comparison to most of the other comics, there were more character development in the X-Men than there was in other series. And I think that's part of the fact that since it is such a ragtag team group, you can eventually just bleed off people over time and introduce new characters. So you can let some people progress. I mean, Scott had a whole like anti-hero arc, right? Like characters were actually allowed to change in the X-Men in ways that you'd kind of frown upon with the whole every comic is somebody's first comic mentality a lot of other ones have. But the melodrama was always over the top and fun. Wolverine has a lot of melodrama in his life, especially the whole like period where he went to Japan and had a whole Japanese love interest.
Sorry, I got an odd email.
Yeah.
So why? Okay, so I don't think we got to this unless I missed it. Why were you having misgivings about Deadpool and Wolverine?
Oh, no. I prefaced that before we watched the trailer. And it was just like I had reservations about it.
Oh, just because it's Marvel now.
Yeah, it's Marvel now. And the other one was in the whole history of the movies, we only ever got Logan Light. We got a different character. I was never a huge fan of Jackman being casted as Logan because visually he just doesn't fit him. But like it's one of those things where as long as you act like the character, I'd be willing to let it slide. And not his fault. He's just an actor. They never let him act like Logan. the trailer fixed that for me because he even got to do like the gruff voice and everything. He was acting like Logan in that trailer. This is the first time I've actually seen Wolverine in a live action film. I don't count anything before this as actually being Wolverine. Logan kind of, because by that point in the character's life, he was acting like that, but Logan's not Wolverine. He had abandoned that title. He's not the Wolverine anymore. He's Old Man Logan. So it's like, yeah, you're finally playing a version of the character, but it's not the character that I wanted on the screen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I just noticed something. Well, it was in a thumbnail for somebody who was analyzing the trailer. So as they're walking out, like, from the right side of the screen, and it keeps flashing to when they're in the car, there's a store behind them, the one that kind of blows up a little bit, called Liefeld's Just Feet.
Nice.
So he's the artist who is famous for not being able to draw feet.
Yeah, sort of. Like, he can, but he like avoids doing it at all cost, right? Like he'll do a heavily shaded scene, and even if the character's feet should be in the shot, he'll like cover it in shadow, or there'll be like grass covering up the feet or whatever. It's just like any chance he gets, he will avoid drawing feet. The panel will cut right before the ankle.
Yeah, Liefeld's Just Feet.
Gamotron asks, did you see the Corridor Crew where they made Danny DeVito as Wolverine? I have not seen that. I'll have to go watch that sometime. Danny DeVito is about the right size. He does have the build, though, right? Actually, is he the right size? He might be a little too small. I think he is. Because Wolverine should be about, like, 5'3", right? Now, this is Hollywood. Link varies. He's depending on the game, he's between like 5 and 5'6", right? So there are definitely games where he was 5'3". Yeah. I think the shortest he was as an adult was Ocarina of Time, and I don't think he's supposed to be 5 foot in Ocarina of Time. It's just due to how they did the modeling. If you compare him to things, he ends up being like 5 foot even in Ocarina of Time. But I wouldn't mind somebody who's closer to like 5'7", 5'6". As Wolverine, just like trying to push low, because I know you're in Hollywood. Who you have to work with is going to be limited. Finding somebody that they want to cast that's 5'3", 5'4", probably not happening. Yeah. Tom Cruise would be perfect, but then the other thing is you have to be somebody who's really built. Can you build yourself up for the role? Yes. You have to have a certain frame. Wolverine is a barrel-chested man. Right, like he's a 5'3" barrel-chested man who is covered in hair. That's a lot to ask for with Hollywood. I would settle for somebody who's like 5'6".
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman, what is he, like just shy of 6 foot or something like that? He's like 5'10", 5'11", or whatever. I think he was like taller than Ryan Reynolds in half those shots, and I don't even remember how tall Ryan Reynolds is.
Yeah, he looks...
He could have been angling.
He looks about an inch taller.
Yeah.
Than Ryan Reynolds. So.
And I always thought he was way too close to Scott, right? So you don't have to be exact. I just want the spirit of the comics. Wolverine should be smaller than Scott. Like, that's the point. Scott is 6'1", I think, in the comics. So you at least have to get the dynamic between these two characters right to some degree.
Yeah, he is tall. Hugh Jackman is 6'3".
6'3". Oh my god, I always thought he was shy. Yeah, he's too tall. I've always thought he was way too tall to be Wolverine.
Yeah, I was like, well, I looked up Ryan Reynolds and he's 6'2".
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why does Hugh Jackman look taller? Because
he's 6'3". God.
He's a foot too tall.
He was probably taller than Scott, and they were just doing camera angles half the time, right? But like Scott is above 6 foot. You can't cast somebody who's taller than Cyclops to be Wolverine.
Yeah. What was the name of that actor?
I don't remember his name. But now I'm thinking like they were just using camera angles because if Hugh Jackman's 6'3", he was probably taller than the actor who was playing Scott.
Yeah. James Marsden. Right. Now it's bringing up. Yeah, he's 5'10".
Yeah.
Wolverine was towered over him. He's 5 inches taller.
That also explains like every camera angle shot was like at this weird angle in the movie.
Yeah, he shouldn't even be taller than Jean.
No, most of the women,
surely.
except maybe Kitty Pryde. I think Kitty is like 5'2", right? Kitty Pryde is like the only character that is smaller than Wolverine in their entire group. Everybody else is taller. And that's part of his nickname, because Wolverines are tiny, but you don't want to fuck with them.
Yeah.
They're basically just badgers.
According to fandom.com, Earth 616 Kitty Pryde is 5'6".
5'6"? I always thought she was smaller. Yeah, she should be taller too.
I thought so too. Oh no, wait. Okay, so there's obviously multiple versions.
I think
Apparently,
the original was 5'2".
The cartoon version of her is 4'10".
4'10"? I wouldn't.
5'2". Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's somewhere between 4'10" and 5'3".
Still,
5'6".
like she's the only person that I find acceptable to be shorter than Wolverine in their whole cast.
Yeah.
Right. Nightcrawler should be taller. Jean Grey should be taller. Storm should be taller. Hell, Colossus definitely supposed to be taller. Colossus goes from like the same height as Scott to like 6'10" once he has all of the metal on him or something like that.
Yeah.
Which actually got his height right.
They
They only ever let him be in CGI in Deadpool. We actually got to see real Colossus on screen. That was cool.
Yeah.
Magneto's huge. Have you ever seen how big Magneto's supposed to be? He's supposed to be like the same height as Colossus almost.
Oh my gosh.
I think they are counting his suit when they give that height because you could tell like there's like metal at the bottom of his boots, so that's giving him some stuff, and his helmet. But still, Magneto's supposed to be a huge and imposing guy. I love the actor. Was it Ian McKellen, right? Sir Ian McKellen. Great actor. Horrible casting for Magneto. Magneto's supposed to look like the final boss of a video game.
Yeah. Like Ganondorf is like, seems like he's about 7.5 feet or something like that.
Buck says nowadays he's 7 foot in metal form. I mean, that's fine. I don't care. He's supposed to be imposing when Colossus is covered in metal. That's
pretty big.
Yeah. He's supposed to be a Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
But even Magneto's supposed to be huge. Like, I think he's supposed to be, depending on the iteration, somewhere between 6'5" and 6'10". Right? Like, he's supposed to be a really big guy.
Yeah. I wonder how tall. I think the only reason Nightcrawler is shorter than Wolverine is because he's always hunched over.
Yeah, like he's actually physically taller, but he runs around on all fours.
Yeah. Well, not being a huge X-Men comic book fan, I never had a problem with Hugh Jackman.
Well, yeah, and I guess, but even the cartoons kind of get it somewhat right. Like, if you go back to the cartoon, Wolverine is not that much shorter, but he is shorter than like all the guys in the cast.
Yeah,
because
they
like
don't, they
you
can
just
draw
need the
him
spirit of it, right? That's all I want is the spirit. That's why I'm fine with like a 5'6", 5'7" guy. That's perfectly fine. There's plenty of actors. Who is that guy? The son. What's James Caan's son's name? I'm trying to remember. He was on Hawaii Five-0, right? He's about the right size and build. He could have been a perfect Wolverine, right? And he's a little bit older now, but Wolverine as a character is a bit older now too. He could, right? Like they always play an older Wolverine. He would have been perfect for him. Plus, Wolverine's kind of like almost an eternal character. They could use makeup to make him look younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's already
Scott
a couple
Caan.
100 years old.
Scott Caan would have been a perfect Wolverine.
Who is that?
He's the acting son of the famous James Caan, and he's in like Hawaii Five-O was like the show he was in for the longest time. And I've seen like a picture of him shirtless with like the mutton chops. I'm like, dude, you could have been Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. He was in Ocean's 11. Yeah, I love him
He
in
was also in Ocean's 11. I haven't watched that in a really long time.
Yeah, he was funny.
Yeah. I mean, sure, he's a little too blonde for him, but, you know, you could always dye hair or whatever. It's Hollywood makeup. That's fine. But he's got the build. That's the important part.
As long as they didn't cast like Vin Diesel or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't care that much about height.
I care about character dynamics, right? And capturing the spirit of things. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah,
But-
so see, that's what I said was Nightcrawler is technically taller.
Yeah.
But only when he stands up straight, which he never does.
Yeah. But I'm fine with it. Again, the ultimate thing was they finally let him act like Logan, which was my caveat at the beginning. He's like, if the character's not going to match the build, at least let them act like the character.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of acted like that in First Class in the one scene he was in.
A little bit, yeah. We kind of got it a little bit in Wolverine Origin, or X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
As awful as a
Terrible
movie that
movie.
was.
Yeah, exactly, Buck.
My
That's all I need
dad,
to say.
unironically, loves X-Men Origins Wolverine. There's some really good scenes in it. I'm not going to fault him on that. But, like, as a whole, that movie is just garbage. Especially because of what they did to Deadpool in it.
Yeah.
And also trying to make Dog
forgot what I was gonna
Sabretooth
say. Oh.
for some reason. Like, that was a weird decision.
Well, so I thought Wolverine at the beginning of the very first X-Men movie was really good because he didn't talk
in the
a lot.
bar scene,
They just
meeting
he
Rogue.
just like he practically killed that guy who kind of threatened him. He almost did. And then
I thought it was going to turn
like-
out to be a good performance from the beginning. But then, like, halfway through the movie, he already just becomes Logan Light.
yeah, when he starts having a heart-to-heart with Rogue or whatever. But I like the part where she stows away in his truck, and then he finds out, and he tells her to get out. And she goes, "I saved your life." He's like, "No, you didn't."
Yeah.
I like that part. The Blob being jacked at first was weird.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a weird thing. They're making him, like, this other character that became Blob.
yeah. Yeah, I hate it when, movie writers try to explain stuff in a way that was never necessary
Yeah.
for you to try to explain why he's fat. Just say that's part of his power,
It's like, we want him to be part of this mercenary team. It's like, okay, why couldn't he just be the Blob and be part of the mercenary team? It's like, oh, but then we can't have this whole, like, everybody's in
He wouldn't fit in the
disrepair.
elevator.
Well, no, that was the bigger problem, was not the whole elevator thing. They were writing this whole script that there was this team that was together, and now everybody's lives are in disrepair now, since they were only good at being mercenaries. So it's like, okay, we have to have him being on top of the world and now on the bottom of the world. And it's like, okay, you still could have done that with him being Blob. You just would have had to completely change how you were writing the character. And if you did, he would have been more like the
it's
character
almost-
from the comics.
Yeah. It's almost ironically like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, obviously I don't, it isn't the thing that I believe exists, but ironically fat phobic, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's kind of saying, oh yeah, he couldn't have possibly been a mercenary, or badass or whatever when he was fat.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, that's part of his.
Which
Yeah.
I
Whatever.
hate that that term too. Like, I know you're
Yeah,
hating it using it. But if you were talking about
But it's like it's the thing that
body
they say. and
positivity, Marvel's actually
Yeah.
always had two really good characters that it's cool that they're fat, and it was like the Blob and Big Bertha, who was from the Great Lake Avengers, and they were always like really cool characters. And Big Bertha, on the other hand, she can actually contract herself down to size because like her day job is being a fashion model. But like her as Big Bertha, that's the real her. That's the her that she embraces and stuff. And like she's just a really cool character for being part of a joke group, because everything about the Great Lake Avengers is this is a throwaway joke group. I love them though.
Yeah. On the other hand, Thor being a big fat slob was not funny, not fun, and I hated it.
Yeah, I think you could kind of throw Kingpin in there too, GMT. There's always a lot of give and take with Kingpin because there's a lot of muscle mass underneath him. Sometimes he's more barrel built, sometimes he's fatter. But I'm fine with throwing Kingpin in that same group, because there's a lot of times where he is just like fat. As Fizz says, Kingpin is kind of sumo wrestler, where like there are some sumo wrestlers who they have only just enough muscle to support their weight and they rely on their weight. Like I think there was a 600-pound sumo wrestler who was a world champion before, but a lot of them are like a mix of, you can't see it, there's muscle under that fat, but the only way they can get as heavy as they are is because of the amount of muscle they have under there too, and it helps. People who win the lighter weight divisions are mostly muscle because it is a grappling sport and you need to be able to move your heavy opponent as well.
Well, it's funny that like, and I don't know if this is still a thing, but for a while there, like lighter people were doing sumo wrestling. Like even the heavyweight division, you started to have these mostly Western, like Caucasian guys were trying it out, and like
world champ who from Britain, he actually has a dojo in Britain right now where he teaches, and he actually went up against one of those like 500-600 pound ones and won. And I think at his heaviest he was just shy of 400 pounds, which is still heavy.
Really?
But now he's like, I think he's like 235 currently, and I think he was only like 2 something when he won. Because he went, a lot of people, even when they become lighter, they are heavier first, and then the weight ends up cutting back as they're building more muscle into it during training. But I think he was like 275-ish when he won against that heavier person. And a lot of it is there's technique involved. But yeah, mass moves mass. There's a lot of masses involved. But it's a combination of strategy, technique, and weight. That's what sumo is. And if you can like even move your mass out from underneath somebody at the last second, right? There's a lot of mind games involved. It is a sport, right? There's got to be any brain involved in an actual sport.
I mean, it makes sense if you concentrate just on muscle and building up your muscle, you should be able to push this gigantic other person.
You should, but
be better.
There's a lot involved in it to where having some amount of fat is actually viable. Not only you get more mass from muscle than you do from fat, right? Because muscle is denser, but it's easier to build on fat than it is to build on muscle, right? So there's some kind of gaming there, but there's also the gripping. So a lot of sumo, you're talking to a martial arts nerd now, so I'm going to get into it a little bit. A lot of sumo.
Great. Maybe we should move on.
Yeah, we will in a second, but a lot of sumo, the gripping comes to the actual band of the underwear thing that they wear. I actually forget the name off the top of my head. But the band, grab that for grip, because it's really hard to grip fat, right? It slides, it moves. It's kind of like gripping a shirt in a way, as opposed to like getting a grip on somebody's hard muscle. So there's an advantage to having a certain level of give in that sport.
Yeah.
Fizz, we're not talking about Studio Ghibli today. I know you said that earlier, but that is just not on the docket. So if that's what you're coming in, we're not talking about that. The next topic that we're moving on to is Spaceman.
Yeah, which I thought I might show the trailer for that too, and we could talk
If
about
you want,
it.
yeah. Let me.
Did you You saw it. You watched it, right?
Yes, I watched it. I watched it like a week before you got around to it.
Yeah.
In fact, look, you can see Fizz in the audience. Let me, for the audience sake, hide the audience. There we go.
Chimji, E Honda slaps for a reason, I guess.
Oh, yeah. There's actually a lot of slapping in sumo. Not only is it just against the rules to have a close fist for many different reasons about honor, but the slap actually lets you move their weight, right? There's a lot of pushing. There's even sometimes headbutting in sumo. Not allowed to headbutt the head, though. You can headbutt the chest, but not the head. It's against the rules. Okay.
So yeah, I thought for anyone who hasn't seen it or doesn't know about it, it's a movie just came out this year, right? On Netflix.
Yes, it is. It is brand spanking new. Not that brand. I think January or something. But
Couple
it's
months,
this year.
Yeah. So I did finally watch it this weekend, and it was not what I expected. Is that loud enough?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so the basic premise of the movie, for anybody who has not seen it or watched the trailer beforehand, is that Adam Sandler's character is a cosmonaut who works for Romania, I believe, specifically. And there's
Czech
it was
Republic.
Czechoslovakia. Okay. All these other people use cosmonaut instead of astronaut. I honestly, cosmonaut's kind of a cooler word.
Yeah.
But
I was wondering at first because
They were
I didn't
Czech.
realize. I was like, why are they saying cosmonaut? That's weird.
actually, it wouldn't even be Czechoslovakia because that's not even a thing anymore. Czechia, right? That's what they call it these days.
Right.
And since it is in the not too distant future, it would still be Czechia unless they end up changing their name again by then. Like our good buddy Shabby is Czech.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a cosmonaut for Czechia. And there's this weird phenomena up in space, really far away, but big enough to be visible from Earth. And everybody's like racing out to it. Czechia and this cosmonaut are the
South Korea.
closest. Yeah, South Korea is really close too, but they are the closest. And he's been out there for, I think, years at this point, is what they said.
It said 189 days or something. So, half a year.
Not a full year. Yeah. Which means, okay, that would make sense on the size. That would probably be between here and Mars, if that's how long he's been out there.
Well, he's close to Jupiter, though, so he
Close
must
to
be just
Jupiter.
going really fast.
Yeah,
That's what they said.
That's right, because they have faster than light communication. Maybe he can move fast enough that it's not a problem. So it's close to Jupiter.
Yeah.
I missed that part. But he's going out to investigate this thing. And this is more of like a psychological thing than anything else.
Yeah.
Because he ends up meeting this alien on his ship that you kind of question whether the alien is actually there or not.
And they never explain how it gets on and off the ship. Mm-hmm. Like it moves freely, apparently, just through solid matter. It's weird.
And the alien only shows up as he's getting close to this phenomena. So we're not sure if it's part of the phenomena, like the early signs of it. But he's dealing with these emotional troubles of being distant from his wife. But now he's physically distant when before he was just emotionally distant.
Yeah. And only when he's apart from her does he realize that he misses her.
Yeah. Common emotional theme in movies. Or just storytelling in general.
It's pretty funny when he first sees it.
I didn't look up the cast. Do you know who plays Hanush?
No.
Oh, okay. Let me find that out real quick.
Oh. I thought you were going to tell me.
No,
It is a
I said I
cosmic.
didn't look up the cast.
Oh.
IMDb Spaceman. I want to know who voices Hanush. Let me.
Oh. Well, I found it.
Oh, who is it?
Paul Dano?
Paul
I don't
Dano.
know. Oh, he was the guy who played the Joker in the Batman.
Okay.
Did you see that? I mean, not the Joker, the Riddler. The
The
Riddler.
Riddler.
That weird.
I've
nerdy
seen
Riddler guy.
most of that movie, but I don't have like any recollection. Most of it I'm trying to purge from my mind. I want to see if I know him from anything else. No, I've not seen almost anything he's been in, I think. Aside from the Batman
Yeah,
that I'm trying to
Riddler.
purge from my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, he was in Swiss Army Man. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I am like you, an explorer. Your love
Anyway, I thought he did a fine job voice acting this Cosmic Spider.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was good, but weird. Like his mouth was weird.
Everything about it's
Got
weird.
like a human
It's
mouth.
got like, and he's got like tendrils in the front of him
Yeah.
that he can use to grip things.
what you do.
But like between the effects and his voice, they did a really good job of making this thing talk like a human but not sound like a human, which was
Yeah.
important.
These are your thoughts. I am simply finding them with you.
Yeah, so he accesses Adam Sandler's memory, and like they're implying that like that's all that the guy can see when it's happening, right?
Yeah,
Like he's like he's watching his past life like a movie, and he can't.
it's almost
he
like
can't
he's out on
control
a
it, though.
spirit quest, and Hanush is like his guide
Yeah.
in the spirit quest.
Yeah,
It's a spirit animal, is a
but
spider.
he's kind of doing it against his will though. He's kind of like be in the middle of something, and suddenly he's watching himself as a in a memory. So
Everything that begins must end. I'm not allowing that.
You go where I go, and I go where you go.
it's a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, not exactly what I expected, but it was good. Told you it reminded me of Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? In that
Yeah,
it was,
and I can see the comparisons to that. Yeah.
You know, as a
I
comedian
kind of
in a
enjoyed it. It
dramatic
was
role.
weird. It was very
Yeah.
weird, I will say that. I don't dislike weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like I guess I probably didn't expect Jim Carrey to be as good as he was in that movie, and I didn't really expect Adam Sandler to be that good. And he was
Well,
good. I thought it was good.
I think I remember we talked about this before watching it, and even in a lot of his comedies, Adam Sandler often played the straight man in the comedy, where like comedic things were happening around him. Like Anger Management
Sometimes.
is a really good example of that.
Yeah.
Happy Gilmore is kind of a good example because he had his anger issue, but aside from that, there was nothing like ha funny about the character. In fact, a lot of his anger issues were because of the other characters he had to deal with, right? Like he had to learn to Chubbs, being like that golden mentor character, spotted it, and he would push him comedically to try to get him over those anger issues, find his happy place, and he was more the straight man in that one. He's been in movies like I wouldn't necessarily call him the straight man in Bulletproof, but Bulletproof also isn't really like a comedy. Like sometimes he jokes, but both of them are somewhat serious, somewhat funny. But yeah, he's often been the straight man. He's also been in a few dramatic things before that. I haven't really cared for most of his dramatic stuff. This might actually be the first non-comedy movie by Adam Sandler that I've seen that I enjoyed. I hated Spanglish. I thought Spanglish was a horrible movie.
So, Gamotron asked if I'd seen Rain Over Me. I have not, and now that I'm seeing what it's about, it sounds like it's gonna make me cry.
Yeah.
It looks like a dramatic movie with Adam Sandler. About
He was
a
also the
guy who
straight man in
lost his-
50 First Dates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to watch that. I bet it is gonna make me cry. But to see that. But no, yeah, I mean, this was a bit off the wall. It's a bit strange. You know, guy in space with a giant space spider creature. But I thought it was touching the way he figured out. Well, did he really? He essentially figured out that he never really listened, or he never really bothered to try and understand his wife.
Yeah. He tried to understand everything except for the people closest to him.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that profound. It was just, okay, he's closed off, and then he realizes that he misses her, and so he's sorry that he was like that and doesn't want to be like that anymore.
Yeah, it's very, very common theme that we see all the time. It's man goes off on adventure to do something great, finds out that the thing he was really seeking was in his own backyard the whole time, and he never paid attention to it.
Yeah.
Classic tale.
Yeah. Not exactly profound, but it was.
But it was an interesting way to do it.
Good.
So that's the important part. It's like, hey, there's nothing new under the sun, but let's do it in a way where actually we're not even under the sun anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but I did think Eternal Sunshine was more original.
Yeah.
And interesting. Although what's funny is I was describing this to my girlfriend, and I was telling her that it was like this other movie. She hadn't seen either one of them.
Yeah.
And so I started to describe Eternal Sunshine, and about 5 seconds in, she was like, "Oh, they get back together in the end. Is that what happens?" I was like,
"Yeah."
She's like,
"It was kind of predictable."
Kind of predictable, yeah. But
it's okay for movies to be predictable, though. It is about the journey.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not. I don't look for anything profound, but it was kind of cool, and I thought he was really good. And I think the parts where he sort of realizes that he fucked up with his wife,
yeah,
and why, what went wrong, and how he wished that he would be able to do it again. That was pretty dramatic and touching.
Well, also like the character from being in the perspective of isolated in this container floating in space, is that a lot of times you see movies with like astronauts or cosmonauts and stuff, and they're pretty stupid, and you're like, listen, unless this is a far future and we're beyond astronauts, like just regular civilians are in space, you have to be really intelligent to be sent in space, right? That is not everybody gets to go up to space. And this was a very intelligent person. Like, he handled things intelligently. He, at no point did he fully accept whether Hanush was there or not. But his first reaction was, this could be a contaminant. Let me try to decontaminate. And then if the thing is still there, A, it could just be immune to the contaminant. That's something he has to consider. But B, he could just be hallucinating this thing. So that's why he has to do this first thing, to make sure he's not hallucinating. And then, even when he finally gives him a name, he gives the name of Hanush because the character in the story may or may not be real. So he's still leaving in the air in his psyche that, like, you might not be real this whole time, but you're real enough to me, which is why he goes off the ship after him. But there's, like, a lot of signs, like, I don't think Hanush was real, because he touched him, and he told him not to touch him, but at a certain point he touches him. And it's like, why do these things that were inside of him, the grunkles or whatever they were called, only eat his species or things from his planet? But, I mean, ultimately he's just carbon, right? He was able to eat the Nutella. Yeah. So it's like, why would Adam Sandler's character not get infected by these grunkles after they actually touched, if he's not actually real? Yeah. Like, that's the sign to me that this was just like a spirit quest. But that's not to say that what happened to him wasn't real. It either could have been his isolation that caused it, or, since things ramp up the closer he gets to this phenomenon, the thing in space, the beginning, the origin or whatever stuff, could have been what caused all of this. So Hanush could have been physically real enough to him. I like that it's still...
Yeah, it could have been... something put into his mind by this cloud, to a degree where he could even feel it and touch it, but in fact it wasn't real. But I mean, what is real?
Yeah,
If he's perceiving it, then
yeah, that's like I always think about psychosomatic symptoms. It's like, well, yes, there is definitely an external reality that we can all experience together. But sometimes there are internals and external realities that only some people get to experience. All right, like mass hallucination is very much a thing. To say that what happened wasn't real, it's like, well, it was real enough to all the people who hallucinated it. And they can all check with each other. So it's like, what is real is a very dense question in itself.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I missed it, but I mean, I guess they didn't really explain what happened to Hanush at the end, or it was like something invaded his species and killed them all, and it had infected him. And yeah, he just kind of disintegrated at the end, but it was gross. It was like, oh, these things are coming out of him and devouring him. But yeah, it was a little convenient that like once Adam Sandler, whatever his name was, sort of completed his, what'd you call it? Spirit quest.
Yeah, vision quest, spirit quest, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hanush kind of had this convenient excuse to evaporate, disappear.
Yeah.
Like not just like die and become a corpse, but like actually like
no trace behind for anybody else to discover. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just a movie, but it was definitely left ambiguous as to what really happened there.
Yeah,
and why did he?
Fischoso is bringing something up, but it still leaves up the question. He's like, yeah, a parasite that infects a creature can't necessarily infect another creature. It's perfectly sure.
So it could have been
perfectly fine. But what I'm getting at how they explain the Grunkles is that it destroyed his planet, not just the one species. It's like it basically ate the life on the planet that he came from, right? Which is one of the reasons why he's a refugee. And Hanush could eat the Nutella. And he referred to it as sustenance, right? So that means if they can eat the same things that we can eat, if they can get sustenance from the same things that we can eat, the things that just devour the carbon-based life form on their planet, unless we have a specific poison to them running in our system, should be able to devour us too, because it is just carbs at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be that he just didn't. It wasn't on the outside of him yet. I don't know. There could be a million reasons why it didn't infect him.
It was very weird about the way that, like, it described the infection, because before they could just devour his whole system, they had to weaken his system first. It's like, well, if you said they needed time to multiply and you were the last person infected, so they were slowly working their way through the system, maybe that could have worked. But, like, there's nothing about your physical system that's going to stop rapidly multiplying Grunkles from just devouring the entire thing inside and out.
But they never explained how you get infected.
Yeah.
It could have been just touch may not have been enough. So.
Yeah, we're getting to War of the Worlds territory. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just everything about the whole character, it just made me think, like, I don't think he's actually real, or at least real to anyone aside from Adam Sandler's character.
Yeah. The point was they made it ambiguous enough where he might have been real, he might have been a hallucination, he might have been a projection,
And one of the reasons why I think it had to do with that whole beginning stuff, it could have been a way for the phenomenon to explain itself to him as well, since Hanush was what explained the phenomenon to him. There was an interaction with his wife and a spider on Earth, and then also she ended up following one of the particles to a field. So apparently one of the particles made its way all the way to Earth. So that's why I think that Hanush was just a part of that phenomenon. Like, he was just an interaction with it. That's my personal headcanon.
Mm-hmm. And whatever it was that he was interacting with, if it was real in any way, it definitely had access to his brain and could make him see things. They did establish that, right?
Yeah.
Because he projected his own memory to himself. And even there was one case where it projected a memory that he didn't personally witness,
Yes.
that had just been described to him. So they were, that was sort of the explanation of this is what you imagine happened.
Well, and that's also why I believe it was the phenomenon that the whole time. Because there was that scene where there was on a physical, the projector that he used for communication, and Hanush even said, like, I'm not the one doing this, right? That's when the particle went through. It's like, I think the whole thing was just the phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think whatever that cloud was doing it all. It was so random. I mean, just the fact that he could just get in and off the ship without...
Yeah.
Just by going through the window or the door or whatever. It's like, that's weird.
Very. Very weird.
But anyway, I liked it. Well, it wasn't, groundbreaking or,
It was the only
or anything,
drama by Adam Sandler that I actually remotely enjoyed.
Did you see what was it called? Rain.
I haven't seen Rain Over Me, so I don't know if I like that one or not.
Rain Over Me.
I still have to watch it.
Rain Over Me.
He's done so many movies, I haven't seen everything. But a couple of the other ones that I've seen, like Spanglish, which is marketed as a drama. There's some comedic relief in it here and there, but it's marketed as a drama. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Don't know why that movie was made.
See, I never watched. I thought it was marketed as a comedy, so I don't know.
I've only saw it marketed as a drama, and then when I watched it, there was barely anything funny in it. So
It looked dumb.
it was dumb. Like, I get the premise. It's a very real thing about, like, mixed families where they're English and Spanish speakers and living in the States. So the children end up speaking, like, this weird butchered version of both the languages together. Like, the premise is a very real thing. I get it. But, like, the actual execution of the movie was shit.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Not to spoil Reign Over Me, but it felt a lot like The Fisher King. Well, I mean, that's not a bad thing.
I've never seen that either. There's something about people who bond over the fact they had parents that died in 9/11 or something. So
Yeah.
Sounds sad. Sounds very sad.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about Delicious in Dungeon?
Yeah, we still have
Did you
that
watch
to
that?
talk about. I did watch that. I almost forgot to. I watched it at, I think, 6 o'clock in the morning. Today, because I almost forgot to. I'm like, shit, I did everything else I needed to do. I even caught up to Sandland. I forgot to watch Dungeon Meshi. Let me go open up Netflix real quick and do that.
At least they're pretty short. Actually, I know I watched it, but I'm just looking up to remind myself. What was the recipe of the week?
What was the recipe? It was some type of stew with a cockatrice egg inside bricks made from the dungeon repairer things.
Yeah, cleaners. They're called
The cleaners, yeah, the dungeon cleaners.
Dried with sweet sake.
And technically there was another recipe in there that you barely got to see, and it was the the minimal Asian meal or what that she made for Shiro, because Shiro came back.
Yeah.
I mean, we already seen him, but he's officially back.
Yeah, the whole
because he
team
reunited with his party.
Yeah. Yeah, he's with that other team that has like the kobold.
He's technically with 3 teams now, right? So like he came back with his own party, like
Yeah.
his family, the people that are part of his clan. Then he was with the team that were hunting down the main team, and now all 3 of them have met up with each other.
Yeah. And the ones that are kind of suspicious of these people, or maybe they're just outright hostile, just not really showing it yet. They're the ones who got killed by the treasure bugs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they thought that these people stole their treasure. They didn't realize that it was their treasure that killed them.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't even know that it killed them. So they seem to be hostile, but they're not They're not showing it. They're being devious.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. But
Well,
then
at least this like the main
something
guy,
happened
we
at
don't
the
know
end.
what to think of him, right? The rest of the crew just seems to be like along for the ride. They wanted to get revenge, but then he's even like, well, actually, they probably didn't do anything to us. Like he informs the magic user in his group, but he's still like really suspicious, despite that. So like, I'm interested in seeing where that's going.
Yeah, it's it's one of those frustrating things where I wish they would just come out and say it. Hey, did you guys find us dead at some point, and what happened there? Just ask, because they could explain it. But I guess that would ruin all the intrigue.
Real suspicious thing could be that I don't know, that the leader of that group could be a descendant of the dungeon mage for all we know, and that's why he's so interested in all this stuff. Like it could be anything. I don't know that much. Like I haven't been reading forward in the manga or anything. There's actually something about the adaptation that one of my friends who read the manga actually told me, and because of the adaptation, I didn't notice this. And I'm sure like they could only make it ambiguous for so long before it has to come out, but apparently, Marcel and like Fallon are lesbians, and that's why Marcel is so like gung-ho about helping her.
But they're not together, right?
I think they end up together from what I've been told, but like you can't tell that from the way they adapted it, right? At least right now, there's like some it's kind of ambiguous. They slept in the same bed together, but also in a room where everybody was sleeping together, and they're the only two girls, so naturally, like you would just expect that to happen. Like they leave it really but I don't think they can remain ambiguous about it forever if that actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, Marcel's reaction when they rescued Farron kind of got, but you're right, it was not 100%, but it kind of got me suspicious. I was just like,
and that happens in adaptations a lot.
Yeah. They call it gay baiting, don't they?
Yeah. Well, because apparently in the manga,
like,
it's pretty clear from the fucking start. Yeah. That's why I'm saying like they leave it ambiguous in the adaptation. Like,
I kind of prefer it that way. Yeah. Because it's more natural, because you wouldn't just come right out and like say stuff like that, like because you're like, you're just happy that the person's alive, talking about your adventures and blah blah blah. You wouldn't just be like, oh, and by the way, audience, we are lesbians and we're in love now. Yeah. Like they do in the comics.
But there's also ways for you to outright say it without being cringe about it, though, right? Like if you have feelings for somebody, there's reasons why you might have that as your driving force, right?
Yeah. But I like it. I like the way they are handling it so far. They could be, well, anyway.
Which I don't have any problem with it. It's just weird that that's how they decided to adapt it, and I get it because there's like this whole idea of mass audience appeal and stuff like that.
Yeah. So when they first rescued each other and they went and I was like half wondering if they were going to explicitly say they were a thing, or if they were just friends, or if they were. They could still be friends, Yeah. Just because they're both lesbians doesn't mean they're together. Just because they're in proximity, it's like it doesn't have to happen. So we'll see.
Well, they're definitely
or they may not bring it up
be like a romantic interest between the two, from what I've been told. Okay. I haven't read it, so I'm just going off of secondhand information. But it also looks like, which might be a crushing thing later, Shuro clearly has some type of romantic interest towards Fallon as well. Because I could not imagine why he would be so stressed out and trying to do what he's doing if he didn't.
Well, they showed Fallon again at the very end of this one, which I feel like she was completely absent from the last episode.
I think so too. Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of showed her again, and she looks very
monstrous.
She's very much under the power of either the dragon or the mage, or
she is technically the dragon now, so she's under the mage, and she's been sent to look for.
But it's weird.
King.
Yeah, so I don't quite get how this works, because it's like her soul, but they just rebuilt her body from the matter that made up the dragon.
Yes. So, like, I understand this. The reason it's still
So does the
her,
mage just control the
it's
physical
because
body?
her body is made up of a monster, and he controls all the monsters in the dungeon.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the explanation they're going with. She's made of the
So
dragon.
does her-
He has complete control of every single aspect that is natural to the dungeon.
Yeah. And I guess even her brain is made up of dragon
Yep.
matter. Right?
The only thing that really isn't is, I guess, parts of her skeleton that they were able to
Right.
use that were, her spirit was still bound to.
So, like, does her soul, like, is she screaming inside but unable to control her actions?
Oh, I have no clue. I don't.
Or is he able to control her mind because her brain is also under his control? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's any resistance or anything.
And what?
As far as I could tell
Yeah.
from what little we've seen, which makes sense. It just depends
Yeah.
if you think your mind is separate from your soul or not. Which, obviously, like
Yeah.
ghosts have some type of consciousness in there, so maybe. But
In the
like,
show,
if,
yeah.
if you're in the body, and the body is completely piloted by the mind, if he has control of the mind, there probably isn't any internal screening.
Yeah, it's ambiguous. In
She
what
looks
way?
like she's in a hypnotic
is
daze
she
more than
found?
anything.
Yeah, I guess in this show, obviously, that we're not.
Yeah.
We're just talking about in this
Yeah,
universe.
yeah, I'm not talking about even real life.
It appears. Yeah. It appears that you have to have some either you have to be controlled by a mage, or you have to have a soul to be animate and quote unquote alive. But other than that, yeah, there doesn't seem to be any consciousness attached to the soul per se, except when
because monsters
it
don't
might be
come
separated
back,
from the body.
which means so they don't
Right.
have any soul. Right.
Right. So it's an interesting, situation because I didn't expect her to become under his control completely, or I expected maybe she'd be fighting back and maybe he just controls her body, but
I don't know. Maybe we'll find
there's
out
no
more.
indication of that. Yeah, that's interesting. And we got a new recipe for. And we found out that there are these little creatures whenever the dungeon gets damaged. These
Yeah, the
little
dungeon
wormy
cleaners.
things, or ants or whatever they are that come along and repair everything. That was new information.
Or the excrete dungeon material.
Yeah, like it hadn't hardened yet, so like the bricks were like liquid still.
And they were able to hide inside the wall itself because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, gross. So apparently they are also good to eat.
Or maybe not. I mean, they're okay to eat. He was very questionable about the flavor of it when he actually ate it. It was like an acquired
I forgot,
taste.
Yeah, forgot that part. Everything they eat is questionable, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely things that aren't, right? Especially looking at Marcel. When she eats something, like, it looks questionable, but then, like, her eyes light up and it's like, oh, it's delicious. It's like, okay, well, I mean, if something's delicious the first time you eat it, that's the opposite of, like, an acquired taste. Or it matches a taste that you've already acquired. Because technically everything is an acquired taste. You just acquire most of that between the first 4 years of your life. But, no, like, a lot of it looks delicious in response, right? Like, so she eats it and she's the one that questions everything and is like, oh my god, it's good. This, on the other hand, even Laios, who eats everything possible and wants to try everything, was kind of questionable about it.
Yeah. Even though the dwarf does a great job of presentation. I'll say.
Yeah, when he
He's
even
a
said
good
it's
chef.
like, I wouldn't recommend it, but it is edible.
I'm gonna have to go watch that part again. I don't know if I missed the part where they ate those things or not. I must have.
Yeah, it was. You just kind of like scraped the bottom of the brick that it was served in, because the brick was made of the. I guess you just call it excretion. It's not the poop, but it is something they excrete. But of the stuff that comes out of the dungeon cleaners.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Just like Crocodile Dundee said, you can live off it, but it tastes like shit.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the end of the show. That filled up the last of our time. It was good timing. Thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the show, please share it out. Also, most of the stuff we'll announce ahead of time if we're actually watching it. Like say Dungeon Meshi, we've been keeping up with that. We might start having a Sandland conversation, assuming Marsupial.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to watch that.
Yeah.
That's my next homework assignment.
Well, if you want to feel like you're part of the conversation and you watch along regularly, we announce what we're watching, so you can go and watch it ahead of time and feel caught up. But in the meantime, if you really enjoy the show and you want to lend a hand, you can give a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. Adds to the pizza fund, really helps me out particularly. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
And on Thursday, we're talking Ever Crisis, man.
Oh yeah, well we're talking that. We're talking. There's actually a lot of things. Preview. Embracer Group is splitting up into 3 different companies, so we'll talk about that too, and a bunch of other things. So we'll see you then.
All right. See ya.